I was originally commissioned by the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting, which is a innovative funding group that provides funding for for international journalists to do work overseas. And really because of their patience, this film came about. But they originally sent me down to Jamaica to do a series of short films about the fact that Jamaica has the highest HIV infection rate in the gay male community in the Western Hemisphere. And so the question was, how could it be that Jamaica would have this raging infection? What are the social factors behind it? And from that, one learns it's the laws, it's the institutionalized homophobia, it's the religious homophobia that's being driven. And as a result, gay men go underground. The Public Health Service has decided it can't legally treat or produce public education materials or engage with the gay community. And so you end up with this raging epidemic. From that work, one of the critical questions was, is there really anti-gay violence happening in Jamaica? When I met with the government ministers, they said, no, it's all gay-on-gay violence. This is propaganda. It's not true. So I sat with members of the gay community for 3 or 4 days. We did interviews. I met a lot of people. And one of the people that came forward was Simone. And she had literally just come out of the hospital about 2 months before. And I met her daughter, and I was very moved by her and her story. And she was remarkably the only person from the gay community in Jamaica who's willing to go on camera and show her face. And I think it was both a measure of courage and also a measure of desperation, because the agreement we had was that I wouldn't show anything until she had successfully left the country and Kayla had successfully left the country, or that they weren't with us anymore, and then she wanted her story told. So that began almost accidentally this process that I think none of us imagined would take 5 years to finally unfold and complete. So that's where the story came from.
I was approached to do this project by an organization in Nigeria called Initiative for Equal Rights. And the whole idea was, it was at a point in time where the bill had been passed. They were waiting for the president to either sign it or not. And we thought it was important not just to have a documentation of people living in Nigeria who are hugely affected by this, but also to have people who are in the know and can also talk about this and enlighten people on the implications of the law on not just the Nigerian LGBT community, but the general Nigerian as a whole. Because, the whole idea, one of the things that I also realized as a filmmaker was, in the Nigerian film industry, there is no representation of the average gay person on screen, even in the story. And even when they decide to do it, it's usually from the point of view of someone who has a misguided idea of what being a gay person is, and so what you see is, he's demonic or someone who needs deliverance or things like that, and then they just sort of capture them in a very undignified manner. So I thought it was important to have not just one person, but several people who are gay and would actually come out on screen to talk about their sexuality. And also, one of the difficult things that I also realized was, when you talk about a lot of people back home, when you talk about gay people, the only thing they're always concerned about is the sexual aspect, and that bothers me a lot, because when you look at an heterosexual person, you don't think of sex, you have sex with opposite sex. You don't think about that. You think about a human being. But when you think about a gay person, you're always concerned about, you sleep with a man, you sleep with a, I thought that was ridiculous, because it's important to know that gay people are human beings. They wake up in the morning, they're sad, they're happy, they have lives to live. And we need to see that, we need to represent that on screen. Even though we had limited time to do this, I thought it was important to do it regardless. I spoke to someone about this recently. I'm not saying it's any better, but for some reason, I think because women are already sexualized in Nigeria, so the idea is women are sexual objects, even when you watch a music video. So it's almost understandable for women to be lesbians somehow. You find men saying things like, "Oh, I can understand women being lesbians, but men," So it's almost like, I mean, it's still dangerous, but there's a little bit of, subtle, acceptance for women. Because it's almost like, yeah, women, they're just women, But for men, no way.
I think to understand the situation in Nigeria, we have to put into perspective the so much importance we put on masculinity in our community, which might be a little bit different from what's happening. Okay, because there's so much emphasis on masculinity, and you must not cross that line. But for women, it's to some. I wouldn't say it's acceptable, but they tend to overlook it, and you see a process, like you said, a process of sexualization of women to women sexual encounters, where so many times you see stories of gay stories on different blogs, and people will say, "Oh, I can understand, women and women, but men." And this is because there is an idea of what a man should be, and if you cross that line of what a man should be, men, and don't forget, men are the ones that are always angry, because they feel that their masculinity is being threatened, because somebody is putting a question to what a man should be. And so there's that anger that comes from it. Is it good that women are seen as an object of sexual satisfaction to men? Maybe that's another question we need to challenge. And also we should understand that, again, this film, I think, was sponsored by an organization that's doing a lot of work looking at men's issues, especially men who have sex with men. So that was why there's so much concentration on the men.
I'm from a country, Jamaica, that's very proud. We're small, but very proud of our accomplishments, and I think justly so, one of which has been leading the world, not only in athletics, but okay, don't be jealous now. But in terms of human rights, people don't recognize that Jamaica was the first country to impose sanctions against South Africa. We were one of the first countries to propose an international year of the child, I think, an international year against racism. We proposed a lot of international advances. But the issue of LGBT human rights has been whipped up, as you've heard, by the churches. But that's not how I identify Jamaica. I identify Jamaica by our flag. And I'm going to just, if you'll allow me, do a little bit of demonstration. Please, thanks. So those Jamaicans who are in the audience, I won't put you on the spot, Keon. But our colors, black, green, and gold, are very symbolic. When I was growing up, we were told that black meant hardship, the green was the land, and the gold was the sunshine. Thank you. So it's a hopeful flag. Hardships there are, but the land is green, and the sun shineth. So there are hardships in Jamaica. Thank you. The poverty level is extreme. The last research said that 1.1 million Jamaicans live below the poverty line of a population of 3 million. We have possibly the second highest murder rate per capita in the world after, I think, South Africa. So the issue of LGBT rights just fits into a milieu of social issues. And so, for example, when I mentioned the murder of LGBT to the Minister of Justice and asking for action, he looked quite nonplussed and said, "Well, we kill straight people too. What's your issue?" So, of course, you have to explain to him that, yes, you do kill straight people, but you don't kill them because they're straight. We are killed because we are gay and poor and et cetera, et cetera. So we have multiple vulnerabilities. But it's hard to get through to people when they only think of you as another statistic. So that's why the film is so important, because it humanizes LGBT to show that, oh, we do have regular lives, and we're not perverts, and we're not out to defile children, etc. So I usually wrap myself in the flag when I do these presentations, because it allows me to adopt or to inhabit my alter ego. 1 minute, please.
You're a drag queen.
And ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Superfag.
I hope that the film is seen widely. And, the film has been in, I think, 15 film festivals now around the world. We won Best Documentary from the Audience Award in Amsterdam last Sunday. We won Best Picture in Belize, which is also struggling with its anti-gay laws. Honestly, my sense is in the mainstream community, it's not getting picked up. But within the gay community, I think that will be its natural audience, and I hope people will pick up the film, buy the film, would be great, show it in their community groups, show it in their church groups. I mean, I think really so much of the Jamaican diaspora lives in the UK and the US that the way to change minds, and Maurice and I have been traveling and showing it to high schools and middle schools, both in the States and recently here in the last week in London, and kids are coming up to us saying, I've never thought about gay people like this before, because I think the film doesn't really put their sexuality at the forefront, but really focuses on the humanity, and more than that, on the relationships. Simone and her daughter, Tom and Maurice. And to see the film is to see people in a much more dimensional way and from a perspective that everybody can relate to. And so I think, honestly, most people say, Jamaica, it's off in a corner, it's not really topical to me, or gay and lesbian issues, it's distant. And hopefully the way this film will have an impact is if it is shown broadly. If anybody has any contacts at the BBC, that would be great. I think if it's shown in church groups, I think the word will ripple through the Jamaican community back to Jamaica. We've had people take it across Trinidad and Tobago. It's being shown in Puerto Rico. The issues, particularly the issue of a mother leaving a child behind, what we're hearing is a universal Caribbean experience. And people are able to tap into that regardless of their sexuality, regardless of their political orientation. And so help us get the film out.
With this film, we actually just completed it in December. So this is the first screening. This is the world premiere. And yeah. So we are planning for a major screening in Nigeria. And that should happen pretty soon, and other screenings are in the pipeline. But let me just say that to be able to do this on its own is a victory, because I think the first step that we need to take in before there can be any changes, gay people need to be visible. Yep. We need to see gay people. It shouldn't just be an idea that gay people exist. We need to see gay people. And even people who are not gay, who are supporters of the cause, need to be vocal. I think it's very important. And that is beginning to happen. And hopefully the baby steps would yield something.